Well, welcome everybody to the Live It Out live stream, and I should say Kia ora, Meri, Kirihimete, which means welcome and Merry Christmas in the Māori language.
Beautiful New Zealand. You're listening to Eternal Impact's Live It Out live stream, and we're coming to you from halfway around the world where the sun is shining and it's nearly 80 degrees Fahrenheit out. We love it. Yes, friends, we have dodged another winter bullet. Although it does seem a bit strange to be singing, walking in a winter wonderland when it's 80 out, but I'm not complaining.
And I'm not complaining either. In case you're just meandering into this time, you should know this is the Live It Out live stream where we discuss everyday life as believers in Jesus Christ. We strive to give you relatable content and encourage you in your ability to live out the gospel where you live, work, and play. We're just keeping it real, nothing fancy here, just engaging in conversation together. And I will tell you that it is even more crazy than normal because we're using like a minimized technology kit here. So we're using our camera on the computer. We've got our phone hooked in for Steve, our guest. It's very relaxed. And so if there's a few glitches along the way, you'll give a lot of grace. We always need grace, but especially on this time, we may need it. So let us know if you're hearing us, how we're doing. We are seeing friends already from around the world on here. And we see Rebecca Burcham driving, getting us with data along from Portland, Oregon, on their way to Long Beach, Washington. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And Sylvia, so great to see you here. Let's just bring Sylvia's comment right up on the screen. And Sylvia, it's so fun to see that you have. Oh, I've switched screens. Jennifer's trying to remind me I have to switch screens.
There we
really
go.
blew that one. All right. Well, Sylvia, let's try that again. Sylvia, we're seeing that you are coming in from Uganda, and it's so great
to have you.
So great to see. It's been a long time since we've seen you in person, and it's a privilege to have you along with us. So that's just wonderful. So very exciting, and others that are coming on. But we just want to say welcome, and again, we're just trying to get the technology dialed in. As Sylvia can see, her comments are coming up there. Praise the Lord. Greetings from Uganda. So very cool to see you. You're also going to notice that we're looking down a little bit more. Normally we have a camera up, and we're going to be talking to Steve, who's actually across from us, but we are looking down a little bit because we're kind of looking through our script and our show notes here, and so it looks a little different, but we know a lot of you are just listening to us anyway and not even watching us. But wherever you are, we're just glad that you're with us, and we see the audience growing, and so thanks. Join us, share the link, and welcome others into the conversation because you're not going to want to miss it today.
John and I are so excited to be here in New Zealand. For those of you who don't know, we made this journey to be with our daughter and our son-in-law, Leslie and Sully Love, which we are thrilled to finally be over here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Because of the pandemic, we've not been able to see them for over 3 years. Actually, 3 years, 82 days, but who's counting? I mean, come on. No, but we are super pumped to be here, have time together, and getting to experience everyday life. You can follow that journey on Facebook or Instagram. I'm mainly the Facebook guy, although if you follow them at the Out of the Box Instagram things, I mean, it's a wild ride. They'll even show you all sorts of crazy stuff.
The behind the scenes.
Check it out, the behind the scenes of the studio and life. And but follow us through Facebook and YouTube. And remember that you're on here from different platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. You could be coming through Eternal Impact's Facebook page or personal Facebook page. We see all the comments, so just they come through. We see them up on our screen, at least hopefully. So most of these are Facebook comments. If there's a YouTuber out there, make sure to send us a message via YouTube so we can make sure those messages are coming in as well, and that'll be great. Along with getting to meet Leslie and Sully's friends when we're here, which has been so cool, we also have the privilege of attending their church, Revolution, this last Sunday. Get to be there again this Sunday. We watched their live stream from the States many times, but it's always just completely different experience to be here in person, and that has just been so cool. So
they look even better in person.
They do.
And they looked really great on the live stream.
Yeah, but they do look better in person. It's just good to be here. And Steve, Steve Silcock, Steve and Amy actually are co-pastoring with some other pastors as well. They can share a little bit more about that, about the Revolution team. But they are the pastors here at Revolution Church. They've been so gracious to welcome us into this space to use it. So we're in the youth room. There's some yellow striping, around wherever it is.
It looks very youthy.
Yeah, we put a
in
Christmas
here.
tree in the back. We threw some lights. I mean, it's just, we're right in a youth room, but it's pretty cool, and we look forward to introducing you to Steve and the ministry that they're doing here in just a few minutes.
But before we dive into all that conversation, we want to take a minute and talk about some highlights. So, and they're not very many this time. I think we're just kind of focusing on our retreats.
Yeah, really. I mean, end of the year stuff is out from Eternal Impact. So, and Eternal Impact sponsors this show, so we'll just say thank you to Eternal Impact for, they're so gracious as missionaries with them. We just are so thankful to be serving alongside this organization and this ministry family. So it's wonderful. So thank you for those that are out there that are supporting Eternal Impact and making this possible. You're awesome.
Yeah.
EternalImpact.org, you can go there. You can sign up. If you have not seen the most recent information, that's really where you want to go. There's a newsletter and a letter from Jennifer and I that just came out. Christmas cards flew out with us. They were going out through the mail system as we were flying out to get here. So those that are on our mailing list, you'll be getting those. If you're not, you can just sign up at EternalImpact.org. That'd be great. When you're there, check out the retreats, because as you know, our heart is to see men and women inspired that are pastors, missionaries, vocational or co-vocational Christian leaders. And we are in the process of developing a retreat space that we can host with regularity all year long, leaders, to encourage them, to offer them rest. But what you do want to remember, and the reason I put that little logo up there, is that we are partnering right now with Kirihimete Springs. As you'll remember, if you want details on Kirihimete Springs and the ministry they do out of Central Oregon, you just go to our website and click retreats. All the details are there, and you could have an opportunity to be one of the many pastors that are coming. And I say pastors, we use that term kind of culturally. It could be a pastoring, you could be an evangelist, you could be a missionary, you could be whatever. But for Kirihimete Springs, because we're partnering with them, they focus predominantly on pastors, in particular lead role pastors. And so because we're partnering with them for the 6 retreats we're doing this year, because of that, it's going to be pastors and leaders that are at those. But stick with us for all those that are in vocational and co-vocational ministry, because we're here to love and to support you. And so more retreats will be coming, but hit the website and check those out.
Up.
Yeah, we want you to be a part
us.
of that. So that's really all the information we have about announcements and thanks and all that. So that's what we got going.
Hey.
So normally we do a flashback right now, but flashback, we go back to the previous show, and we do just a highlight. I don't want to do that actually I do, because the show that we did 2 weeks ago, it's 2 weeks ago with Maxine, was amazing. So check it out. But I want to give all the time we can to be with Steve today, because it's just so good. Yeah, and it's going to be a great time, and we're looking forward to just continuing the conversation that we've been having with Steve. And so, hey, why don't we take a minute and get into today's subject, introduce you to Steve. And so why don't you do that, hon? Introduce us, and then we'll let him do more.
Yeah, so you heard a little bit about Steve and his beautiful wife, Amy. They are the senior leaders here at Revelation Church, which is in Christchurch, New Zealand. And they love people. And they're always looking for ways to enjoy the journey with their 3 kids. Teenagers, I might add. Their passion is to help people connect with God and what He's up to on this planet. Everyone matters deeply to them, and I believe that. I do. I've engaged with these guys. They're wonderful, and they love people. They love helping people in all aspects of life. They've been in church and youth ministry and pastoral leadership since 2000. But in 2014 is when they launched this church here, Revolution church.
Let's say it again. You got to say it like revolution.
Revolution.
I mean, you got like some monster truck rally or something, Revolution Church. Okay.
Anyway, they had a dream in their heart to build a great church that would impact this amazing community, and I believe they are doing just that. God is using them in amazing ways. Amy's not able to be with us today, but we are excited to have Steve and welcome him to our live stream. And I believe his light has gone out, so he might be a little bit shadowed because his spotlight, it just went out
Because
on us.
John, like a crazy man, forgot to plug in the light so it would have more battery.
You can see him pretty
Yeah,
well.
he looks
So
pretty good.
Steve,
Looks pretty good.
it's so great to have you here today.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks.
awesome.
It's a joy to be able to talk with you.
It's so good. So now we're looking across the table and see we have this funky monitor way up there. So I'm going to try not to look up there because I look like whoa, it's crazy. But hey, Steve, we're just hanging out. We're chatting. We've got some little tech paraphernalia in between us. But really, usually we bring a guest in from somewhere else. You'd be coming in via the internet. But we get to hang out.
Oh, we
more
love
with you.
that.
And
We love having you right here with us.
Yeah, it's very cool. So why don't you just first receive from us thanks, just for being with you and you being a great host and gracious. You guys got a ton of things going on. You're getting ready to leave for the holidays. You got a Sunday message this Sunday. I'm assuming you teaching Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, so you got all that going on.
So much going on.
Yeah, and you took the time out just to love us and the listeners and the viewers. And so I want to remind the listener viewers as we kind of dig in, you could send questions. If you do send them in, put a Q or the word question, colon, in front of it so that we can see when they come through. If it's a question, we'll make sure to put it up. But let's engage together. We're just having a conversation. I'm reminding Steve as well as the listeners, this is a conversation. Just like every time in the Live It Out live stream, we're learning to figure out what it means to grow deeper in our relationship with the Trinity and what it looks like to live our lives like Jesus.
And I just want to make sure we've got his sound going, right?
Yep, we got his sound.
Okay.
But everyone out there will let us know. Everything looks
Yes.
like it's working in here.
Good.
If they can't hear Steve, they're going to start getting comments saying, I can't hear
turn
him.
him up, turn him up.
So,
haven't
turn
seen-
John
haven't seen much
down.
yet, so.
That's usually what they say. Turn John down. But anyway, well, Steve, introduce yourself a little bit about, what kind of brought you to Christchurch. We don't have to go back to birth, but I mean, just kind of journey us in to bring us to Christchurch. And then there was a period here and God put on your heart to kind of launch this faith community. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, hey, great privilege to be able to share today, and hopefully my prayers that something that's encouraging to people. We came to Christchurch, moved to Christchurch a little over 11 years ago, actually. I think 11 years ago, something like that. Just before, you might not have known, but Christchurch had a series of significant earthquakes in which there were fatalities and a lot of destruction around the city.
And that was 2011?
2011, so we moved down a month before that. Just good time, we came believing for big things, and that's what we walked into. So, but that was a journey. When Amy and I were first dating, we took some time out. We both grew up in church families, but it was very religious from our point of view. It was form. We didn't see a lot of real life in it, and so we kind of just saw the rules and rebelled against that and wanted to go our own way. And in our late teens, 18, 19-year-olds, and we didn't know each other, but God got a hold of our lives. And for me at that point, I was like, man, I think if Jesus is the way the Bible describes him to be, I want to be all in it. He's worthy of my life. He's worthy of everything. And so went on this journey. I've got involved in youth ministry and met Amy in the process. We actually were working together at a church, sharing an office, and that was where the romance started. But we spent some time praying together and saying, well, God, give us something that will form the direction of our lives together if you're bringing us together. And we felt God speak to us out of two passages of Scripture, John 21, if you love me, feed my sheep. So there was a sense of, we spent the day apart and prayed and came back, and God had shared these same verses with us. And so we felt, there's a sense of loving people is a big part of it. And then the other verse was Isaiah 61, verse 4. It says, you will rebuild the ancient ruins, raise up the streets of desolation, restorers of the streets of dwelling. And so we felt, and both of us had our own mental health journeys and brokenness, and we felt to pour our lives into broken and hurting people. And at that time it was youth ministry, and so we just loved on as many broken and hurting young people as we could and trying to point them towards Jesus. And I thought that's what we'd be doing for the rest of our lives, just youth ministry. We had a passion for that. I had the opportunity to preach the gospel in different places around the country, in different parts of the world, and thought we'd keep doing that. And then God began to speak to our hearts. I got saved in Christchurch. We were living in a different part of the country up until 2010, and God began to speak to my heart and remind me of some of the prayer meetings I'd been to and up on the hills in Christchurch, and started to put Christchurch back on our heart. And the long story short, we just felt this sense of it was time to pick up our tent with 3 little kids under 5 and move to Christchurch, come on an adventure. We came down to lead a campus church down here. And like I said, we got down, and a month into the journey, we were like, well, this is different than what we thought it was. And so then we went on our own journey of life. The year after the earthquakes, there was aftershock after aftershock, and a lot of challenge, and that was very disruptive for our lives, and it challenged a lot of our faith journey. And I personally came to a point of realizing that so much of my spiritual formation and leadership formation was shallow and surface, and God began to take us on this journey of integrating mental and emotional health in our discipleship, looking at a lot more baggage from my past. That I had never, I just claimed victory and never actually allowed victory to take root in those areas of my life. And so, we began to go on this journey, and we realized in the process of that God had put a church in our heart that was quite different from what we had experienced. And 2014 launched Revolution. And the idea is that we just think the love of Jesus is just so life-changing and so revolutionary that we want to build a church around that and reveal that to our community. So this is a little bit of a snapshot of the journey. We're still trying to figure all that out.
Well, we all are trying to figure it all out. But a couple things, let's drill into that. And then we got just tons of questions because we really want to take advantage of this privilege of hearing from a New Zealand perspective. We interview a lot of different leaders. Most of them, not all, but are from a U.S. context.
Right.
But the United States is only about 5% of the world's souls. Right, so God, who loves the world, loves this cosmos. He loves it so much, and He died for all of it. Yes. And sometimes, as Americans, we can get a little myopic. I suppose as any nation, we can get a little myopic, for our own space. Yeah. But I want us to first of all highlight the fact that just so people get a perspective, okay, that have not been to Christchurch or aren't aware, because again, sometimes we can be in our own little world. It was a devastating earthquake in Christchurch, and the whole country rallied, of course, at that time, but they're still rebuilding today.
Yeah, you still see the effects
there is
of it.
Construction going on right now. 11 years later, it's 11. Is my math right? Almost 13 or almost 12.
Our major sporting stadiums will be finished in about 2 years.
Yes.
So we've had makeshift sports stadiums.
Yeah. Which, that's a big deal for here too, especially if you're, rugby and football, the real football, not the American football.
What that would be like.
Yeah. And so it is a big deal. I mean, commerce, shopping, housing. I've been able to travel. We call just since I've been here, a little bit of what's called the red zone, which is all the houses that couldn't be rebuilt, so they're just uprooted, and it's almost like parks. Just parks because you can't build on them.
It's very
strange.
Anymore.
Yeah. And so I just want to give context to people. So that's the space to which God calls you in. And then I also want to highlight something else that I think will lead into our conversation, because you also are going to give a perspective that we look forward to hearing, and we've been able to dialogue about from post-COVID. Now, we say post-COVID, some people say, well, we're still in COVID. Okay, maybe that could be. But because I know we still have friends that are getting COVID, but we know friends that are getting the flu too, so we're not in the post-flu season or whatever. But it's like, it's a unique time after this pandemic, and New Zealand, just to help people understand context as well, was one of the latest countries in the world really to open back up, especially of the Western countries. So it's not a political statement or anything, that's just a reality. And so, so thinking about that, we're looking forward to hearing some perspective, some questions we have about that. And so be thinking out there, those that have questions. We have had some people comment in. And yes, Addie, we did see your comment come through that you like the tree. Yes, thank you. I agree, Addie. Yeah,
Isn't it
it's
beautiful?
cool that we got the tree in the background. We pulled it from another section just to have it in here for the background. I'd like to say that Steve and Jennifer and I just whipped it out real quick, but we actually just pulled. It was already decorated. But thank you. And make sure, give us some comments too. That I see happy holidays, I see a lot of messages coming through, but make sure to let us know. You can hear Steve okay as well, so if we need to have him start screaming, we will. But
I think it's interesting too, Steve, that the Lord gave you that scripture about rebuilding the walls.
Yes.
Little did you know how
Literal.
That was going to be.
That was going to be.
That's pretty amazing.
He rocked the very foundations of Christchurch and planted you right here at that time for that season.
Yeah, I probably would have preferred it to stay in the more metaphoric.
Metaphoric, yeah, that's right. Lord, I can handle the metaphor.
Absolutely.
It's fine. Yeah, right. Well, okay, so when out of that, back to that scripture and the one out of John 20, which is beautiful. It sounds like, please correct me if I'm wrong in this, but it sounds like God, although you're still trying to figure it out as we all are as we go, because we're lifelong learners and listening to the Trinity and trying to understand where the Spirit is leading, but it sounds like he was kind of revealing an apostolic and a shepherding ministry out of you both as a team. Now you can correct that if that's incorrect, but it sounds like, and for those that don't understand what I'm saying in that, maybe check out Ephesians chapter 4, where we talk sometimes about apest or apostle, prophet. God calls the bodies equal. We're all called out, but there's kind of some offices or some operative abilities that God gifts us with to where we operate as either an apostle, a prophet, an evangelist, a teacher, shepherd. Some theological tribes put teacher and shepherd together. I usually don't. I usually separate the two. But just to give a little background for our listeners in that, it sounds to me like that was a stirring that took place, and what a step of faith, because you were not even sure what you were going into. And, we all know what that's like to be a part of one ministry that's not quite all you thought it was going to be or whatever. And then he shakes something else up and does that. But would my read on that be right? And if not, share a little bit about that calling.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think that, foundationally there's a deep love and compassion for all people, but I think Amy would carry more the shepherd heart as far as fivefold, and I would be more apostolic as far as wanting to see the gospel take new ground and expand. And that's probably been the hardest thing about both the earthquake journey and the COVID journey, is that the season was not right for this sense of expansion. It was right for actually reframe what faith community is, reframe church, which is a pioneering in and of itself, but it's not a very outward one, and so that's created tension for me as far as the timing of God. But yeah, so I'm sort of I like to when I think about a secular sort of concept, I kind of think of I have a passion to be like an architect in the church, to help tweak with the design and the culture and the DNA, and that's certainly my passion zone. And at the moment, a big part of that is not just how do we get church leaders healthy, but how do we build in a healthy way. I think there's a lot of the good thing about COVID is it's brought the church back to a conversation around health, which I'm thankful for, and it's a big part of my journey. Am I healthy? And that's the best gift I can give my people. But beyond that, actually, a structure, a framework, a wineskin that's healthy, that's not chewing people up and spitting them out, for the cause of Christ. So
that's good.
So
that's spot on.
Good transition for us too, because I want to talk a little bit about recent last 6 months, whatever, because you've. Again, you guys have been, when I say this, you'll understand, I think the listener will understand what I'm saying, is like behind the United States. I don't mean behind as some kind of level. I mean calendar-wise, kind of behind the progression of the COVID and the lockdowns and all that. We kind of watched your journey and alongside ours, and where we were in the United States, it seems like about 6 to 8 months kind of ahead of the process, because New Zealand's an island, they were able to stop some stuff and everything was good, and then they had to kind of go through it again, almost.
Catch
so
up.
With that context in mind, I just want to put a pin in something you said here, just to highlight for people, and then let's kind of talk a little bit about sabbatical and what God's called you to, and let's learn from each other on that, as I'm really looking forward to that. And I know our listeners are too, especially those that, might be addicted to adrenaline, many, like some of us are. And so, but the point that you made there was just the uniqueness and the difference of people, that God calls all of us. And I know you, I shouldn't say I know you, I'm assuming you're more of an introvert, whereas Amy's more of an extrovert, correct?
Yep.
So even then, differences, which is pretty common.
Yeah. I wouldn't know anything
I'm
about that.
clearly the introvert, of our couple. And all right, maybe not. So extrovert, introvert, but also giftings. He doesn't always gift people exactly. And it's not like, oh, you're an evangelist, so you're an extrovert. Right. I want to just be clear that what I'm saying. And the reason I want to make that clear is I think that's really beautiful and important for us to remember. God is calling you, listener, you viewer, and he calls us all, man and woman, together to serve, to operate, and to bring honor to him while serving the kingdom of God. And he uses extroverts, he uses introverts, he uses different offices, he uses, and I just think that it was something you said, and I didn't want to lose it, in the sense that when he calls you, because there might be a couple that's wrestling through a call in their own life, right now, you don't have to be the same. You have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the same person. No. He wants to use us uniquely and individually. And I see that in you. Right. I see that in you and Amy, because even though I've just met you recently and I've been able to see it in person, I've watched as a guy that works alongside a lot of Christian leaders, and that I've seen that in watching the live stream and seeing the way you lead and you care for people, and the maturity in which you recognize some things, even in some months back, that we experience pain, process, energy, different things in different ways. And that brings us to even 4 months ago. You can give the exact date on it, but you had shared with me, and this is where I want you to talk a little bit about, there was a season, a time where it's like, and Jennifer and I can relate to this, to where it's like, my soul's unhealthy. Yeah. My cardio seems to be okay, and everything, but my soul is not well. And sometimes that can affect our bodies, that can affect our physical and our mental and all that too. But I want you just to walk us into that a little bit, in that journey, and then let's leave enough space and time to talk about how that, what you've learned from that experience, and we'll ask some questions around that. But I'm just, share with us kind of the awakening that there was for you in that as you navigated COVID. Put some timelines on that, and then we'll talk about what God's doing now.
All right, so we're leaving the celebration of diversity to a little bit. We're not talking about that, just more the... Just referencing that.
I just wanted to put a pin in that idea for people to get and remember that as we see how people process and even recognize
we're different.
The different in our soul, and when I may need rest and someone else needs rest, and all those kind of things, it's okay that as a couple we may experience those differently and at different times, and I think you guys do that so well. But I really, I'd like to talk about, lead us into that. We might circle back to it, but talk just about when you had an awareness of like, man, I need some rest here. I need something not right.
Yeah. Well, no worries. Well, I came into the start of this year, 2023, after, we had 2 years of wrestling with the COVID journey, and I just knew that things weren't right, and I'd been wrestling. So about the 12 months prior, some of my old patterns of thinking. I've struggled a lot with depression in my life, and so suicidal as a teenager, and so some of those patterns started to emerge in my thinking, and so I'm like, okay, well, that's where the warfare is for us, the battle is for us in our mind, and so I'm better equipped now than ever to be okay with that, and my thoughts come and my thoughts go, but what I do with them, and that was part of the journey. So I was wrestling. And I probably hadn't put my finger on why I was wrestling so much, though. But I was doing my best to take my thoughts captive. But I came into the start of this year thinking, well, I'm going to try and lead the church well and strong, and hear God and discern God and lead out of that place. But I was at the bottom of the tank. I was tapping out. And one of the things that highlighted that for me was I went hiking over the Christmas break, which is one of my go-to meet with God and restore, and it just didn't even put a drop in the bucket of recharge and refresh. And so I came out of that experience, something's wrong here. What normally recharges me isn't recharging me. And I went to my board and actually I went to my doctor first. I went to my doctor and she was like, she's not a Jesus follower, but she's seen my journey throughout the last 11 years of being here. She said, I've never seen you like this, and I'm quite concerned for you. And so she wanted to put me on medication. Well, she did. She put me on a low dose antidepressant stuff. She said, I need to buy you a window because you got to do a journey with some of this stuff. And then I went to my board and said, this is what's going on. And they were very gracious. They actually said, because a couple of my board have been through burnout, and they said, if we don't do something here, you're gonna burn out because you're exhausted.
You're gonna lose you, huh?
And so I was like, yeah, okay, let's do a month. And because my family of origins is pioneer settlers in New Zealand from colonial sort of days, and you didn't call on help. There was no one to ask for help in the middle of nowhere, settling land. And so I've got this strong history of just soldier on. You rely on yourself. You just push through, which is helped me achieve some things in my life, but it's probably my biggest problem, a weakness, if you like. So they said, and one of my board members turned around and said, 1 month. We'll start with 2 at the minimum, but we're going to open-end this. You're going to take as long as you need to heal.
What a beautiful thing to hear. That's a privilege that you had a board that was that sensitive to your need.
Grateful. I mean, it just kind of shows you that we, our own pain can be some of the greatest blessings that we bring to others. So out of his own burnout, he was able to support me. So I took leave and I went on this journey of healing. It ended up being close to 3 months, and had regular counselling and began to explore why I'd got to where I'd got to, and what was it about COVID. And so for me, I'm futuristic and I'm strategic, so I like to make a plan, execute the plan. It's the best plan, and there was no way of doing that through COVID. There was no way, and it wasn't the time to invigorate fresh mission. And I mean, I started and I was like, oh, this is our Antioch moment. We're going to, and then, people are like, oh, we don't know if we've got our job,
right.
And so, you've got all that. And so managing that, I was exhausted, but it wasn't just that. It was years of unprocessed trauma and pain. That I hadn't faced, that I hadn't grieved, that I hadn't let go of. And so God had to take me on this journey, and that was a 3-month journey, and I felt ready to come back. My board didn't ask me to come back at that point. I said I'm ready. They said, convince us that you're ready. And so we had a conversation, and I convinced them because I said I was on a mountaintop, and I made peace with God again. And I've never felt more at peace because I'm willing to trust Him with my future. And that for me was a big part of it. I've got to solve it. And there's so much I couldn't solve, and actually being able to surrender. So it was quite a journey. It was prayer, it was counseling, it was medication, it was community, it was me getting better at the people that I trust, going to them and saying, I'm struggling with this, I've got this going on, how do I deal with this? And it was just this raft. But it was a 3 months that was such a gift. It's an incredible gift, Isn't that funny how the lowest parts of our lives can actually become some of the richest seasons of our lives?
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much there. I mean, we need to drill into a little bit, unpack some of that, and then we'll talk, before we wrap up our time today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned, what you've learned.
Yeah.
And we want to glean from that because, you're it's about 2 months back, right?
How long have you been
a bit
back?
more than that. I've been back about 6 months.
Is it 6 months?
Yeah,
okay, time's flying here.
Yeah.
And I can't, so
That
it's
was
been
the
6
start of
months,
this
yeah.
year.
And but first, I just want to say, if I could leap through the screen and give a huge hug to the leaders that spoke life into you and loved you in that way.
Cheers to your board.
Yeah, because we work with leaders all the time, and I say leaders not just vocationally, but leaders in the church, board members, board of directors, elders, different people in church, and they're not always as open to the Spirit of God in that and sensitivity towards their leaders. And I just want to give a thanks to God for that because I feel that's a reflection both of your leadership, but also of their sensitivity to the Spirit of God.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that those listeners that
Well
are out there can learn and glean from that. Might even be a time where they have to, okay, maybe that's that moment they pause. If you're watching on the restream tonight, you pause it and you say, okay, what's God speaking to me about that space for my own context and my own life? Because one thing that you said here, there's a lot of reflection, and that's one thing that COVID did do for us. It gave us a space. It's like, well, normal's not going to work.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Yeah. So it gave us, if we wanted it, a time to reflect.
Yes.
Often we find in the church, people didn't want to reflect. They were so focused, like you were saying, getting back to normal, getting back to whatever that is, so our numbers and all that stuff can be measured how we think we're supposed to measure them. And we saw it by, I would honestly, I'm going to be honest with the listener and viewer, I think that's the majority. It's from the people we have in context and statistically, that's the majority. And of wanting to get back to normal and they have missed an opportunity to remember and to receive the gift that he gave. And some of them, to their defense, are feeling stuck now because they got to put their hands to the plow in order to get this done, and they're on the verge. I also want to just say something else that as I'm reflecting of what you're saying, Steve, is you talked about going to the doctor. And I love the way you said, whether she said it or you said it, I'm going to give you a window of opportunity or a something. I don't know what she said there, but
my emotions were too low.
Just too low. And so it's like, okay, and not even a follower of Jesus, but just understands physiologically and mentally, you're on a path here. I don't even need the Holy Spirit, so to speak, in the sense to feel this, to see this. You're in trouble. And so that's beautiful on a lot of fronts, because it's also important for our listeners and viewers to understand you're not alone.
That's right.
Those feelings, the depression, the pain, the taking of all of those life circumstances, your childhood, everything, if not dealt with, they will snowball. And they will come and hit you, whether it's in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s or whatever, right?
That's right.
And we're just family here, right? And we're just talking and we're looking into the camera, just as Steve was, and saying, hey, it's okay to be self-aware. And when you are, recognize that both physiologically, mentally, and then spiritually, there's healing, there's restoration, there's hope, or there's the option of ignoring it. And just pretending like you can do it on your own. And we've done that too. Confession time. We've been there.
I appreciated that you brought that up as well, because I think a lot of time people struggle with the idea of the medication part. It's almost like admitting defeat or something, And there's nothing wrong with getting that kind of help as well, because it, like you said, it opened up a space for you to be able to process what really needed to happen. You couldn't have done that otherwise. So I was glad you brought that up as well.
And to add to that point, and then we'll talk more about this, but to add to that point, there are, the other pendulum could swing to where we could use medication to say, okay, I'll take that one and I'll mask that, because we've seen that,
with your
right? Yeah, we have many friends in the medical field that are very fearful right now, that are Trinitarian, that are God-loving, that are incredible science, minded people that will definitely give the medication, but are also wanting to do that, because that's the beautiful thing I like. I want to give you a window. That's what captured me. It's like, yes, I want to give you this.
We obviously had a good community around him. Sorry about that.
Well, we talked about it, because I was quite concerned. I'm quite happy. We've got a very good mental and emotional health integrated approach as a church family. Very holistic, so body, soul, spirit, God's working with all of it. Very happy to recommend that for other people, but I struggled with it for myself, because I think I'm too weak. So I was dubious, and we talked about it, and we talked about the plan. She says, well, when spring comes around, that's when we'll be looking at bringing you off. But we've got a few months to get to spring, so you need more sunlight, and then we'll talk about it. But I want to see these steps and with your counsellor and things. So
that's good.
And it worked, and I noticed the difference. I noticed the difference internally. I noticed the difference in my mind, and there was a lot more to do there. But here's what I would say. I would say pain buried is buried alive.
That's right.
And so it's going to come out somewhere.
Say that again for those that are
Yeah,
here.
that's
I want
a
them
great
to
quote.
pain
buried is buried alive.
Right.
And so it'll come out somewhere. And so, for me, what was coming out was years of disappointments that I hadn't processed, griefs, losses of people, unfulfilled dreams. It was all, some people say time heals. Well, time with truth will heal, but time without truth will entomb pain. And rust happens in time, and rot happens in time. And so, time's not the healer.
Right.
Time gives you the window to heal. And so, I would say for me, it was catch up. I was playing catch up time with a whole lot of pain that I had just pushed down.
Yeah, that is such
So
an important
important.
theological point for us to grab hold of, as well as a really practical point. Our practology in that is that time, we say time heals all wounds. That's an English phrase that we hear, at least an American phrase. I don't know if you guys have that here. Yeah, time heals all wounds. It's a lie. Okay, it doesn't, and there is that, because that's when we stuff everything, right? That's
right.
when we stuff it, because we have, and it's a phrase that I've heard 1,000 times. Time, give it some space. Time heals all wounds. Friends, if time healed all wounds, Christ would not have to have gone to the cross.
That's right.
Right? I mean, it doesn't heal all wounds. And the beauty of the testimony that you're sharing and the importance of it, and the reason that I want, again, just us to glean from this part of your life and this story that we're in right now, is that those that are listening need to hear. You need to know, and you need to know this with all the love that we can muster and share to you. We believe in you. We want the very best for you, and we are committed to your success. But time alone will not heal.
Yeah.
And what Steve is saying here about a window is so beautiful, because it does. Time is a window that it can give you, and with the right community and the right tools, and and the Spirit of the living God, okay, a triune God in the midst, at the center. He's at the center of the universe, so he's at the center of, he's at the center of our pain and our hurt. And so he can heal, he can restore.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful. I don't want to miss that, right? I don't want them, because a lot of people are listening through a restream tonight or this morning, whenever. It's our afternoon, but you're re-listening to this. And I want you to allow the Holy Spirit, I just want to say, listen right there. Let him speak to you about that, because he is a God of freedom.
Yeah.
He is a God of healing. He is a God of restoration. He is a God of wholeness. And we are journeying in that ourselves, right? The three that are on the camera right now. And so hear that testimony. Let the Spirit filter through that and bring you hope today, because it's there. It's real. So we see some other people that are on here. I see some familiar faces as well, family and friends. We have Mrs. Love is hopping on here. For those that don't know, Leslie Love is actually our daughter. That's who we've come to see. Big shout out. She says, so strange to see you all in the same room, but cool. Love you all. Well, we love you too. And we haven't really talked about children. We should do a show on children. No, not really. But anyway, very fun to be here in your hometown, Leslie. And so thanks for being on here and listening with all the others. And I want us to talk, Steve, if we can kind of move a little bit and shift towards what you've learned from the sabbatical. What you feel like during that time. We've talked about what brought you to that, and there's a lot of beautiful things that in your story that we can glean from. But let's talk about maybe what you enjoyed most, if we can even use that. Enjoy. It's okay to enjoy the things God gives us and the gifts. So what did you enjoy, and maybe what surprised you?
It was the same thing, a lot of it. What I enjoyed was surprising, because I enjoyed journaling for the first time in my life. Ooh. And reflection.
Interesting.
That was surprising to me, because I'm not a big writer. Journaling has not been a big part of my spiritual formation. But I think in terms of what I've learned is, or the journey that unfolded, actually I'll use my hands as a bit of a gesture that kind of maybe summarize the journey for me in a couple of words, and hopefully we might use it here differently than what you use it in America. But for us, ground zero is coming back to an epicenter of something. And so it was a ground zero moment for me with my own friendship with Christ. So that was paramount, and that's been the most beautiful part of the journey for me. I found a friendship with Christ. So when I first got saved, friendship with Christ was the heartbeat of my intimacy with Him, and I've found that afresh, and I've been able to walk a rhythm since this time of maintaining that, and it's just been profound. So just layers, but I'll use my hands and talk about the ground zero. But imagine, if you will, a spiral going down, and I think this is the journey with God. We're going deeper and deeper into God, and that's. So this has been my learnings. You know, as we're going on this journey deeper into the things of God, we keep coming around to things. And so for me, these ground zero moments was coming back to friendship with Christ. That was a big part of it. Coming back around to some of the identity issues that I've faced in the past, but God's saying, let's go deeper. So, you know, identity, trust in God was a big one. I came back around to the trust journey. You know, because I like to, as we've already said, like to control the future and know my plan, and actually, kind of, you know, you miss the mystery of walking with Christ.
Yeah, I have friends that are like that. Yeah, a wife. Very much
good.
Like that. Yeah.
We won't do an altar call here then. So the funny thing, but identity. So a big part of my journey is you know, addiction to finding my significance in my performance. So if I do a good job, I feel okay about myself. In ministry, it was the same. If I preach good enough, I'm a good enough Christian, you know. And so we just baptize our bruises when we come into church, don't we? You know, so often. But you know, so identity was part of it. But then again, think of the spiral going down deeper of God. What the enemy wants you to do on that journey. Like if you look down, directly bird's eye view on a spiral, and it just looks like, you know, for bird's eye view, it just looks like you're going like this, and you come around to identity again, and you come around to identity again. And the enemy's going, see, you're there again, you never made any progress, look, there you are again. No, but when you look at it from the side, no, I'm coming to identity again, but I'm going deeper in it. There's a deeper layer in God, there's a deeper healing now. And so this is kind of the way I've begun to look at my faith journey. It's not that I haven't trusted God, but He wants me to go deeper in my trust. It's not that I haven't had friendship with Christ, but now I'm going deeper in that. And so it's, for me, I'm starting to frame my journey of life as this journey deeper into God. And it's been really helpful to, you know, to tell my thoughts. The enemy wants to discourage me and doubt. No, I am making progress. I am. I'm just going deeper. But the idea of not being surprised when I come around to an issue again that I've wrestled with before, it's okay, and that's part of the journey. I'm great. And so that's been a joy. Oh, great. I'm wrestling with my identity again. I'm going deeper in it. Oh, good. I'm wrestling with trust again because I'm going deeper in it. And so
yeah, that's really great.
That's kind of been it's been a reframing for me. The other thing I'd like to say is that, you know, disillusionment has become my friend. And I know there's a lot of conversation in the wider church going on at the moment, and deconstruction and reconstruction. And I know, you know, there's a mile of road, 2 miles of ditch, you can swing one way or the other way, you know, but I really feel like this idea, when I become disillusioned in something, and I was, at the start of this year, I became incredibly disillusioned again with God and church and everything. And I now see that disillusionment as a gift, because when you are disillusioned means to come out from under an illusion. And so I see it as a friend. And so when people are disillusioned in their faith, you know, or deconstructing a part of their faith, I don't think we should heap condemnation or shame on them. We should say, hey, well, let's look for the gift of how you're going to see God in a more clearer way, how you're going to build church in a healthier way. Let's not chuck out the baby with the bathwater and pendulum swing one way, but actually let's find the beauty in it. Let's find the grace in it, the gift in it. So, you know, I've got a heart for people who get disillusioned in their faith. I think there's beauty in it if we can, as communities, walk and lean into the heart of God in that season of disillusionment. I don't know. There's some of the learnings. It's been rich.
Good. Yeah,
It has been rich. What a beautiful thing to hear. I love to see how God has taken you on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's really encouraging. I know that our listeners are encouraged by hearing that as well. So thank you for sharing part of that.
And we only have just a few minutes left. It goes by so fast, but we say this every week. It goes by so quickly.
It does.
But I want to talk just a little bit about the church, and again, the church, like you or me or anyone's really a spokesman for the church, you know. But we always love getting perspective from other subcultures and cultures, and so you being from New Zealand, it's good to get your perspective. But there's so many good things that I've said. I don't want to miss them. So let's just recap on a couple things. First of all, you talked about the idea of the spiral and the disillusionment. And the one thing that I love about what you're saying is we don't take a sabbatical from God, even though we may take a sabbatical from elements of the church or of our service or of our work or of our, you're right. And that's something that I think many current Westerners specifically Westerners, are trying to grasp and understand. This idea of, sabbatical comes from the same root as Sabbath, which is a Shabbat, which is a time where we do take rest from all the other things, but at the center is the Trinity.
Yes.
This Trinity, the God that loves us, that is wooing us, that is drawing us into relationship. If we take a sabbatical and try and reconstruct life and our theology, which can happen, we've seen it, especially with some of our young people. I'm going to reconstruct because I have a cynicism and a disillusionment, and so I'm going to operate outside of the Trinity, right? I'm going to try and discover God outside of God. Now, for us, we may say, well, that's dumb, that doesn't make any sense. But for our listener and our viewer, I really want you to understand the beauty of what Steve was talking about here, because and then I want to give you a chance just to affirm or correct or anything like that. But this idea is that the identity is in God. It's in this relationship with the Trinity, and the Trinity is a triune God, which we're not going to get into tonight on today's show. But that you heard us talk about before, how silly it is to try and simplify the Creator and everything into an egg or water or whatever thing we use to talk about with the Trinity. It's complex, but it's also beautiful that this God loves us so much, is so fond of us, cares for us so deeply, that in our pain, when we press into Him, He allows us to spiral and to take the disillusionment and to grow in Him. And if He's infinite, the thing I liked about what you're saying too is there's no end, so to speak. He's the end, and we're finite, but He's infinite.
Yes.
And so in this relationship He calls us in, we can trust Him more because He's proven Himself to trust in that. I've seen this and experienced it myself too. When I try and process and reconstruct and heal and everything outside of the Trinity. I'm just confessing that, it's happened in my life, and I'm sure you have. And you can even do that in the church.
Yes.
Right? So I'm gonna medicate it. I'm going to plow through. I'm going to whatever. And we realize so much of our life is transactional, right? This transactional relationships. As a matter of fact, capitalism, we're not going to get into that now, but I mean, it's a beautiful system, but it's very transactional, and the gospel's not in that sense. He gave everything, and He calls us to enjoy the privilege of this wooing and this relationship, this friendship, this sonship, this, all that we have, daughtership that we have with Him. And so before we move on, and I know we got to do that, but it was so important, I think, of what you're saying. And I want people to catch that and give you kind of the last word on that. But I just hear you saying that at the center of the disillusionment, and the reconstruction and the restructuring of our faith and our theology and all that, there's a consistency of a relationship with the triune God that seems to be at the center of that.
Absolutely.
So give the last word on that, and then we'll ask a couple of questions.
Well, I mean, this is the journey of our lives, but life with God is we have nothing, we own it. I think that when we to be honest with ourselves and to recognize, biblically speaking, that our biggest enemy in our journey is ourselves. Our enemy, spiritually has been defeated, and he'll try and play with our minds, but we'll learn the tools to that. But actually, it's our self-life. The Reformers talked about sin. They had the phrase, I keep forgetting the exact phrase, but in Latin, but curvatus in se, I think, was life folded back on itself. And so when we've talked about sin as being breaking God's law, I'd like to see us come back to the deeper meaning of if we were made in love for love, and so sin is a rejection of love. Right. It's a life turned back on self. And so when we actually go on a journey of genuine repentance, which is putting Christ back in the center of our lives and being loved by Him so that His love can transform us and then can spill over to those around us, we begin to go, okay, there's things every day that in my heart that are rejecting or replacing or reducing God, and it's that is my biggest problem. And how do God take me on a journey so that I'm opening, Revelations 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you'd hear my voice and let me come in. He wasn't talking to the unsaved, right? It was to the church. Union with Christ is about increasingly opening our lives to Christ. And so these areas which we just know, I'm going to make a decision here. Well, that's our biggest problem. And so can we dare to open that part of our souls? Jesus, I want you to be Lord of that. Holy Spirit, teach me. Father, I need your healing. Engaging with the Trinity in every area of our heart, and increasingly, which old school, that's the journey of repentance. But you wouldn't hear me say that probably and actually think, oh, he's talking about repentance. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's the opening of my life to all of who God is. Without that, what have we got?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Because He is the giver of life. He's the giver of everything. So any hope. And so that disillusionment piece is about, okay, I've become disillusioned because I see God in the wrong light. And I need to let go of that to see Him as He truly is.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Beautiful.
And I think that's the
Very
journey.
Good.
Very good, Steve. Thank you for that. As a matter of fact,
thank
I
you.
think that's a great place for us to, kind of cap our discussion around this. I know so much more. I'd love to talk more, and I'm sure we will. We'll be able to hang out at other times after the holidays or
We'll do
whatever.
it again.
And and just talk about maybe the church and where we see the church as a body, as a community, coming in this process and processing this. But really, what I'd like to end with is just an encouragement to the listener and the viewer. Re-listen to what was just been said. Healing's around the corner.
Yes.
But don't try and heal by yourself. And don't try and use your tools from the past. And I'm saying this, I can see my reflection in here, of course, too, because we're on video, so I can see my reflection in here, too. So it's almost like talking to a mirror, And don't let your tools of the past be the only things that you use to let healing take place in your life. God is infinite, and His love for you is vast. He is the originator of that love. He is the creator and the breather of life. And what you heard Steve talk about today is a beautiful reminder that healing is around the corner. And so we won't recap everything, of course, that we had talked about on there, because we've had a beautiful conversation. But I just want to say, Steve, thank you for your transparency, for your honesty.
It's been great having you here.
And we don't really airbrush a lot of reality. That's why we kind of like the live stream. It's raw. It's out there. It's done. We're not curating it and making it look gorgeous. This is just raw. This is who we are. Because you know what? Wherever you are, whether you're riding your bicycle or whether you're driving as one is across the states or wherever it is, we've had different people, as we see, from all different parts, different continents, different places around the world, and God's meeting you. And His love for you is so deep and so rich. Yeah. So if you feel disillusioned, if you feel discouraged in any way, and sometimes the holidays can bring that on emotionally,
really
the intensity, all of that. Hey, you are in the right place because the Holy Spirit is there.
Yes.
And so, yes, there's an element, as Steve talked about, like as in our lives too, there is going to be what we call raising the white flag, right? There's going to be a surrender. I don't know what it is for you. I'm still asking the Lord to clarify even things in my own life as to what that is for me, Lord. How do you want me to surrender more to you? And what does that look like to raise the white flag? But Steve shared a little bit about what that looks like to him. And that vulnerability, that honesty can be used by the loving God to speak life into you today. So we usually don't take the time to really, press into that at the very end. We usually go right into our dad jokes, which we're still going to do. Relax. It's okay. We don't want to get hate mail. We saw some dad jokes. We might even bring Steven. I see he's got a good dad joke. But as we wrap up this segment and bring a close to this show and this time, we want to thank you for joining us live, for those that were able to hang out with us live, and I know many come in and out, and we're grateful for that. But we're also very grateful for those listening on the live stream. If you need guidance, support in the journey, reach out to us at eternalimpact.org or just email us at office@eternalimpact.org, and we'll do everything we can to help guide and navigate you towards a triune God that loves you and get you connected with the right community wherever you are that can help you in that journey. So I just want to remind you of that at the end, and that's important. So again, Steve, thank you so much, brother.
been a joy.
Oh
Thank
man,
you.
it's so
Thank
fun to be
you.
with you, and it's been great. So we end this time. We end with our
On a
dad
light
jokes.
note,
Yeah,
yeah.
our dad joke, and we don't have a lot of tech. I don't even have my laugh machine or any of that kind of stuff here. So it's
So
raw.
laugh really loud
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, that's right. We want to hear you laughing back.
We'll see if we can get a laugh out of Steve.
That's it. But no, first, Steve, I want to ask Steve, do you got a dad joke?
I get to go first.
Yeah, go for it. Our guest, we put you on the spot. Anytime.
I might have a one.
Okay, give us a dad joke.
Eye rolling dad joke. I must say.
They have to
Okay,
be eye rolling.
So do you know the song heads, shoulders, knees and
Yeah,
toes?
heads,
Have you thought about the person that can only sing chest, 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 and chest? The T-Rex.
Nice. Okay.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
Good. That's good. That's a dad joke. That's an eye roller. It has to be. It has to be an eye roller. Yeah, that's good. All right, good. That'll be around the holiday tables. That's good. Chest. Okay.
Well, have you ever thought about what snowmen eat for breakfast?
No, I haven't.
They love Frosted Flakes.
Do they even have Frosted Flakes here? Do they have them?
Yeah, well, used to, yes.
Oh, they
Used
did.
to.
Oh, used to. They got rid of them. All the
So
snowmen.
unhealthy.
I'm old enough.
We got some groans out there. We got some groans, a few ha-has, YouTubers. Okay, yeah, thank you. All right. Well, last one. Hey, where do gingerbread men sleep?
Good question. Where
Yeah.
do they sleep?
In the cookie sheets, of course. The cookie sheets. Get it?
Cookie sheets.
All right. Oh,
was
wait
good.
a minute. Is someone sending us in dad jokes?
Hey,
oh.
we have Dig
Oh,
on
Dig's
here.
on here too. Hey, Dig, how you doing? Well, hey, we could say hi to all these people coming through here. It makes us want to, but we see you, we love you, and we're so grateful for your love, your friendship, and it's just great to have you hanging out with us. We're not sure what is up for next week, so hang out during this time. It's just before Christmas. We're going to come back off of a hiking trip we're doing in Abel, Tasman, but it looks like we're going to be going live, and we're going to do a special Garrick Family Edition, I think, so where we're going to talk about family traditions, and we're also going to talk about how we foster those to help draw us close, and Christmas, not just family, but holiday traditions that help foster our relationship with God and why we do them, and you may have some input on that as well, so we look forward to being with you. So check us out next week, and maybe a shortened show, may not, we'll see. I'm sure we'll have a Christmas tree
There's
or
no
something.
such thing as a shortened show with us.
Well, you never know. You never know what happens. But anyway, hey,
There's your dad joke.
thank you so much for interacting with us and listening on the Restream. We created this venue to provide practical and interactive ways to help you and others live out the gospel.
If you love our show and you stand with our mission, please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and consider giving a tax-deductible donation to eternalimpact.org.
All right, until next time, friend, we genuinely pray that the joy of life and the gift of His grace will be tangible in and through you as you live it out. So, blessings to you, and Merry Christmas, and Meri, Kirihimete.
Kirihimete.
I think I got it.
Merry Christmas.
All right, see you guys.